Today we're taking a look at these NFL matches, which are happening on Saturday, August 27, 2022, and giving you match breakdowns, betting tips and predictions in general on these games. Welcome back to High Stakes, let's get straight into it. Also, don't forget to subscribe to get notified as soon as we release these sport prediction videos, and if you would like more betting tips and predictions, then check out our Patreon in the link down below. Our new Patreon is a way for us to help you improve your chances of making more money. Multiple plans are available for each and every one of you. You can get 30 extra betting picks all the way up to 360 extra betting picks per month. Stop wasting hours of your time searching for bad betting picks that ends up costing you a lot of money. Join the High Stakes Patreon now and get the best betting picks. Going back to our video, we will give you at least 5 betting picks for each game, a team pick, a total pick, and multiple prop bets based on facts and detailed explanation. So make sure to watch our videos till the end so you don't miss any of our picks. Tampa Bay Buccaneers. This Saturday night, August 27, 2022, 9 p.m. the NFL is back in action. The Minnesota Vikings are in Denver, Colorado to face the Denver Broncos in Mile High Stadium. Our team pick is Denver Broncos plus 1.5 points. And here is why. Expect a lot of the backups to get big run in this game as each team tries to lock down their depth chart to figure out which guys are going to potentially make an impact as reserves. Minnesota looked absolutely miserable on the offensive side of the ball against San Francisco, and, while Denver's defense was shredded in their last preseason game, it's safe to say the Vikings' offense isn't at the same level of the Bills'. We've seen decent production in the passing game from the Broncos in the first 2 games, which is more than we can say for the Vikings. With Mullins trying to get up to speed with the Minnesota playbook, give the upper hand to the Broncos in the altitude at home in this contest. Despite dropping their last 6 preseason games, Minnesota comes in as a slight favorite, minus 1.5 on the road, and with 3 veterans battling for the backup QB slot, I expect them to air it out as much as possible. Look for new Vikings head coach Kevin O'Connell to play it safe when it comes to anybody of any importance, i.e. starting QB Kirk Cousins and his $40 million guarantee for the season. That means they'll be using backup quarterbacks. A new backup quarterback has come into the fold as the Vikes traded for backup Nick Mullins from the Raiders. Both Kellen Mond and Sean Mannion have struggled in the preseason, and now they have competition. Mannion appears to be the odd man out at this point, and Mond is competing to stay on the roster. Our total pick is under 36.5 points. And here is why. As sloppy as this game could get, I can't see it breaking the 36.5 point total oddsmakers are laying. The Broncos defense will undoubtedly be looking to erase the embarrassment of last week's loss to the Bills, and should be able to control the lackluster running and passing game the Vikings have brought to the table. Minnesota is just trying to find a semblance of a backup quarterback. Our prop bets are: first pick is Denver Broncos over 20.5 points. The Denver Broncos averaged 330.5 yards per contest, which ranked them 19th out of all teams in the NFL. They held an average of 119.1 yards per game via the rush and toted the ball for 2,025 yards in total. The Denver offense accrued 711 yards of penalties on 83 violations, which ranked them 27th in the league in terms of making mistakes. They tossed 9 picks while surrendering 9 fumbles, and they earned 179 first downs. Throughout last season, the Broncos racked up 3,593 yards through the air, along with averaging 211.4 passing yards per contest, ranking them 19th out of all NFL teams. Concerning this team's ability to score points, the Broncos ranked 23rd in the league with a maintained average of 19.7 points per game. The Broncos conceded 18.9 points per game, which had them ranked 3rd of all teams in the NFL. Denver allowed the opposition a total of 1,892 rushing yards, 111.3 yards per outing, and 9 touchdowns via the rush throughout last year. They allowed 22 touchdowns through the air and 214.8 yards per outing, which put them in 8th out of all teams. The Broncos' defense was on the field for 1,039 plays, which had them ranked 9th in the NFL. Overall, they allowed 322 total points. They earned 19 takeaways, 6 fumbles, and 13 interceptions over the course of last year. Our second pick is Minnesota Vikings over under 20.5 points. Regarding scoring points, the Minnesota Vikings averaged 25.0 ppg. As a team, they had an average of 113.5 yards on the ground, which was 17th in the NFL. The Vikings earned 6,168 total yards for last season. Minnesota accumulated 202 first downs as an offense, and they were hurt by 111 infractions for 1,043 yards. They surrendered the football 13 different times, 7 picks and 6 fumbles. Minnesota compiled 34 passing touchdowns and 10 touchdowns on the ground. When it comes to passing yards, the Vikings conceded 4,300 yards, which ranked them 28th in the league. In their 17 games played last season, they allowed 252.9 yards per contest through the air, as well as surrendering a completion percentage of 64.1%. They allowed 383.6 yards per outing, ranking them 30th in the NFL. They conceded 29 passing touchdowns as well as 15 touchdowns on the ground. They allowed teams to run for an average of 4.7 yards per attempt on the ground and 130.7 yards on the ground per contest last year. During the season, they allowed 2,222 yards via the ground game in 17 contests. The Vikings were sitting in 24th in the NFL when it comes to team defense, conceding 25.1 points per game. Our player props are: first pick is Kirk Cousins over 110.5 QB rating. The Minnesota Vikings ended the season with an 8-9 record. In their last game of last year, the Vikings played the Bears and walked away with a win by a score of 31-17. Kirk Cousins connected on 14-22 with 250 yards passing and 3 TDs. He had a QB rate of 142 and walked away from the game with no interceptions. Dalvin Cook was the rushing leader for the Vikings with 14 carries for 79 yards, 5.6 yards per attempt. Justin Jefferson averaged 21.4 yards per catch by totaling 107 yards on 5 receptions. The Minnesota Vikings ran the ball a total of 22 different times and compiled 104 yards, which is an average of 4.7 yards per attempt. In all, they tallied 47 plays, which converted into 331 yards. Minnesota gave up 33 completions on 48 attempts for 266 yards and a completion percentage of 68.8%. In the running game, the Vikings conceded 90 yards on 25 tries, which calculates to 3.6 yards per rush surrendered. Our second pick is Drew Lock under 90.5 QB rating. The Broncos wrapped up their year having a 7-10 record. When they last stepped on the field last year, the Broncos took a loss by a score of 28-24 when they played the Chiefs. Melvin Gordon carried the rock 12 times for 110 yards, ending the game with 9.2 yards per attempt for Denver. Tim Patrick was featured in the passing game for the Broncos, catching 6 balls for 95 yards, 15.8 yards per reception. Drew Lock ended the game with 162 yards on December 24th passing, while his QB rating was 71.9. He hit the ball away from the defense with no picks, and his average yards per attempt was 6.75 yards. Denver relinquished 29 rushing attempts for 135 yards, 4.7 yards per carry. The Broncos' pass defense gave up a completion percentage of 61.4%, surrendering 255 yards on 27 for 44 passing. The Broncos finished the game with 364 yards while running 54 plays, 6.7 yards per play. Denver ran the football for 6.8 yards per carry, totaling 191 yards on 28 carries.